A quote from one of the most famous modern day philosophers, quote, "Nobody remembers second place." A mindset that is in the heads of millions of athletes, that has not only shaped how we view sports, but how we view our very lives. The idea of being a loser in almost any situation can lead to people and their efforts being completely forgotten, developing complexes and unhealthy mindsets. But hopefully, in the end, we can find a simple solution to this with a simple mindset change. Now, before we get to the real meat of the situation, it must be better to give you a little bit of context behind this and hopefully give you an idea of more what I'm talking about here today. And the best way through that is through, of course, song. In the song The Winner Takes It All by ABBA, it describes the terrible feeling that many people experience after they're losing something. With great crescendos of music and vocals that make you want to weep, this song truly encapsulates the idea of feeling terrible after a loss, whether that may be a sports loss or a personal one, with lyrics such as, quote, "So the winner takes it all and the loser has to fall," end quote. Or, quote, "The winner takes it all and the loser's standing small. Besides the victory, that's her destiny." The lyrics themselves can explain the point of view from second place. It also explains the sinking feeling that comes from everything feeling like destiny, or the idea that someone has to fall for someone else to rise. All of this can play in competitors' heads and further perpetuates the idea that someone has to be forgotten in the end. The reason the song was created in the first place was because the main singer was actually going through a divorce during the time. Now, he is very secretive about what the real reason was, but many speculate it was because of his divorce, as he has said many times that that was when it was created, was around that same time. So you can make your own connections here as a song all about loss and feeling like second place in a person who is just barely going through a divorce. Whether you want to make that connection or not is up to you. But you have to realize that this is coming from somebody that has gone through a loss so heavy, they make an entire song that created a new pop culture. In most big events, most people only remember the winner of these big situations. I mean, who remembers who was the second best runner in the 100-meter dash during the last Olympics? Who remembers who lost the 1999 Super Bowl? And who remembers the second best racehorse of all time? All of these were examples of people who were at the top of their game, people who worked night and day, and when the big moment came, they fell short. The world forgets about them, as the general public doesn't really have enough time or really enough care to remember who was the second best of all time or who was even really decent at that time. A great example of this is volleyball in high school for Japan. They have massive nationwide tournaments that are televised almost every single year. What you'll see is the best teams climb the ranks until there are two final teams that are the best, and, well, hopefully one of them wins the tournament. But what about the other teams that didn't make it to that top spot, the coveted winner of it all? What happened to those guys? In this clip, you'll see the devastation that envelops teams as they realize they just lost the whole tournament. Their one chance is now gone, and the ones who were in their final year will now have to move on without ever being the best. Everyone here wants to win. Everyone is trying their absolute best to be crowned the champions. But only one team will ever get that glory. Another great example of this is Sham the Racehorse. Now, Sham the Racehorse was a fantastic racehorse at his time. The only issue with being so good, someone was a lot better. Secretariat. Secretariat was the best racehorse of all time, getting the first ever Triple Crown and still holding many course records to this day. He is regarded as the best of all time, and hot debates still go on today, but Sham just so happened to live in the exact same time as Secretariat. Because of this, almost anything Sham did was overshadowed completely. Yes, Sham did set many course records and would have had the Triple Crown if Secretariat just wasn't around. But here's the issue. Sham was forgotten. Many people don't even talk about Sham in most top 5 racehorses of all time debates. This shows that even if you are at the top of your game, you are one of the best of all time. If you are just unlucky enough to live in a time of the greatest of all time, you can be completely forgotten. All of the effort and the days and nights spent working went to naught because you just so happened to live in the one era where the best of all time lived. Your greatness would have been debated for years, setting course records, getting the first Triple Crown, but because you lived in the same time as Secretariat, you're forgotten. All of your records, your course times overshadowed because you just so happened to live at a bad time. This shows the issue with rankings and how this second place mentality can really get to people. As no matter how hard you try, if you aren't first, you're last. And for many people, that means being forgotten in the history books. And for Sham, it means not being best racehorse when, rightfully, they're fantastic at what they do.
The mindset and perception associated with being in second place, particularly in competitive contexts, it often carries a stigma of being close runner-up, which can lead to mixed feelings such in pride in achieving a strong performance or disappointment if close to a victory.
Now, the definition itself doesn't sound too bad, but the effects it can bring to people can actually be really harmful. In a research paper done by Amanda Stanek called It's Time to Ditch Athlete Rankings in Youth Sports, she informs us about youth sports and how rankings in those sports can actually be really harmful to a developing mind. She informs us that because of these athletic rankings, kids seek more short-term goals instead of long-term development. Because of this, most kids actually stunt their growth. And for most kids that want to make it professionally, this isn't a good method. Forcing these kids to think more of the short term, to be first place as soon as possible and as much as possible, instead of, I want to be good soon, but I will do as much as I can to make sure I am a good athlete all around. This forces kids into a terrible mindset and can actually stunt their growth a good bit. And because of these rankings, it can develop a very bad stigma around losing for children. Have you ever seen a kid that started bawling their eyes out or throwing an absolute tantrum after losing? It may not be because of bad parenting, but because the society around that kid shows them that winning is almost everything. Yes, there is a lot of different kinds of media that shows that winning isn't always everything. But when almost every form of real media, not cartoons, but real sports media, shows that the winner is praised, that the winner is the best, and we have to do nothing but love the winner. And then we forget about the loser. And we don't teach them that it is okay to lose sometimes, and that there is more for them. Because of this, a lot of kids develop that kind of mindset. And so when you see a kid throwing a fit or crying because they lost, take a second to think before you judge their parents. Is it because of the parents' lack of teaching? Or because of how much we have ingrained ourselves into a winner takes all mentality? This can even be seen in teen sports, and especially in high school when rankings become serious. National rankings are around almost every single sport. You always hear about the top 10 ranked high schoolers for a football game, or the number 1 ranked kid for speech and debate in his certain event. You always hear about this kind of stuff, especially for more around the high school circuit. And this can even affect those teenagers, as many feel like if they aren't ranked, they aren't going to make it to their respective sports professional level. And because of that, many kids develop a stigma around losing even more. So because of the system that we have built around these kids and teenagers, losing is the end all. And connecting back to The Winner Takes It All by ABBA, it describes that terrible feeling that it is fate for those kids to lose and that many feel that terrible stigma around them. As we can see, the song describes a lot of feelings that these kids and teenagers are also feeling. We have to understand that we have to be careful around these kinds of people because they're a developing mind. and we need to take the most amount of care for them. Now, this feeling can even be seen in professional athletes, as a study done by the BBC called Why Finishing in Second Place Feels Worse Than Third, according to psychologist by Jared Christensen, it describes how they can see athletes physically and emotionally look worse when they finish in second compared to third place. It describes how in athletes that come in second place during their interviews after the event, they seem to be a lot more regretful. They think more onto the past and wonder what they could have done to won it all. And because of that, many of these athletes tend to be a lot harder on themselves compared to third place. Third place is happy to be there. They got onto the podium and, well, they were 2 people off. They're happy to be there because they're not fourth. But when you're second place, you're not happy because you're not third. You're sad because you're not first, because you felt that you were right there. This increases, especially in compared to how competitive those two were from first and second place. The more competitive or the bigger the game or the bigger the stakes in that game, the worse and worse second place can feel. So even losing can affect these big athletes, these professional athletes that are fully grown. These losses can affect these certain athletes more than the general public thinks, especially in professional sports. In this next clip I'm about to show you is an NFL quarterback named Cam Newton. During his only Super Bowl into his career, which he lost sadly, he had a chance to dive on a ball that was live. If he got this ball, there was a chance that they could have won this game. But instead of jumping directly on the ball, he jumped back. Why? People questioned for years. He got ridiculed and was sent many different things because of it. But in a recent interview, he shows and tells us exactly why he didn't jump on the ball.
How did it go? Pull up the clip.
No,
I have to see this.
it's traumatic.
Okay, all right, fine. That's how
I can
Jocelyn
just tell
feels. It's
you.
traumatic. Yeah.
I dropped the ball and I hesitated. And I
Oh,
was like,
fuck.
I'm not going to jump on the ball.
Why not?
I was scared.
As we can see in the clip, fear took him over, and that became one of his biggest regrets in his life. And I'm gonna have to say it again, but this goes back to our song from ABBA, that terrible feeling that comes from losing, from professional athletes thinking that they could have been everything, but they had to fall, regretting everything, that it was maybe destiny that led them here. But no matter what, they are terribly sad because of what happened. And we can even see in this interview that someone who lost many years ago still thinks about it pretty often, and you can tell has gone through a lot because of it. So as we can see, losing can lead to a lot of mixed feelings, being forgotten like Sham, or forever regretting your decision like Cam Newton. Now, what should you really be taking away from all of this? This all seems doom and gloom, that losing truly is this end all. It's terrible, and I don't want to lose. I don't want to be forgotten, and I don't want all this to happen. I don't want to feel terrible, and I don't want people to hate me forever. That's how losing feels sometimes. But there's a better solution. We just have to look somewhere else. So, what should we take from all of this? Let's get a better view other than this dingy room to really get that answer. In life, it is easy to overlook the second best. It is in our human nature to look for the best in almost any situation. It's in our DNA. We like things that are the fastest. We like things that are the strongest because that's how we initially survived. But nowadays, we still look out for those kinds of things. We look for the smartest and the freaking quickest, you know? We're always looking for the best. That's why it is easy to overlook what comes second best. As we can see, just because someone isn't considered the best or didn't win at all, doesn't mean that they're bad at what they do. Sometimes it really does just come down to bad luck. As we can see, like Sham. Sham was born at an unfortunate time. Or sometimes it's one event that sadly just isn't your moment. Just because you aren't considered the best, just because someone else isn't considered the best or win it all, doesn't mean that all their effort is for naught. It is important to recognize that even though people sometimes don't win it all, they spent a lot of effort on something. And even if they are second, that probably means that they're really good at what they do. They just weren't in the moment. Their moment wasn't theirs. The luck wasn't on their side, or maybe it is fate. But recognize that just because something isn't number one doesn't mean that it isn't also amazing. And to recognize that is to also appreciate a lot of the things in your own life. Just because something doesn't always give you the most amount of pleasure, just because it doesn't always give you the most amount of award, doesn't always mean it's bad. Sometimes it just needs its own moment, a different time, a different place. But recognize that it doesn't always have to be the best. It is also important to recognize that we shouldn't be pushing this idea of having to be number one onto our youth, especially our youth athletes. These kids are young and they're developing their minds. So it is important to take an extra second with them. Give them a better mindset. Teach them young and help them young. It is important to raise them with the idea that first isn't everything. Sometimes developing over time is. Instant gratification will always lose to long-term success. It is also prevalent in many professional athletes. As we can see, losing affects them probably more than anybody else, as it is their livelihood. So next time you decide to get really, really mad at an athlete and maybe you send a tweet to somebody, realize that they're a person too. Realize that they are probably more heartbroken than anyone else in the room because they wanted to win too. They were out there. And sadly, it just wasn't their moment. They weren't good enough or something else. That's the mindset they carry. So remember, when somebody else doesn't win, especially on your favorite team, and they trade away their quarterback and then the other person wins the Super Bowl, sometimes things just aren't great. So give them a little bit of grace. Now, before the end of this, there's one last article I want to touch on. This article I was surprised to actually find. It changed my perspective on a lot of things. It's in quote, Fighting the Insecurity of Feeling Second Best by Dr. Monica Voller. Dr. Voller describes that within her own life, she felt second place most of the time. She talked to a psychiatrist and found out that it was most likely because she was the second baby of a family that sadly lost the first one. She didn't really know this until later in her life, but when she found out, she started to heal a little bit. But she said the number one reason why she got better because of this second place mentality was because of her husband. Her husband was an amazing person. She said that he felt comfortable in his skin constantly and never needed that reassurance that she needed. But even then, her husband constantly reassured her and made her feel first place for the first time in her entire life. Because of this, Dr. Voller started to grow and get better.
Hi, forgot to add this earlier, so this little editor's note. Another great example Amanda, the doctor we talked about in the end, gives is a run-in she had with her daughter-in-law. They were talking about something, but her daughter-in-law said this, end quote, "I have only one mother whom I love, but you are the best mother-in-law I could ask for." Forgot to add this quote, but it's very important.
And instead of feeling incredibly down about this, she takes this as a massive compliment. This mindset is great to have, and it's important to recognize that even being second place can mean a great amount to somebody. Now, with this final article, where does this leave us? Well, we have to go back inside to find that answer because it's starting to get pretty cold. Of course, it is always good to have goals in life. To want to attain that crown jewel of being the best of the best is just human nature. But when it becomes an obsession, an unhealthy mindset, that's when it becomes a problem. It is important to realize how much effort is put in by both sides, the winning or losing side. And when you finally start to appreciate both sides, it's really easy to appreciate what is in front of you. Protecting our youth is also very important as they are the future. When it comes their time to finally teach their kids a more positive mindset about losing, we want them to be taught well and not have to start from a place that they are unfamiliar with. And don't forget, it is okay to fail at any time. because failing is natural. It's human nature. It is a part of life to fail at things and try again. Don't be afraid to come last or to fail because you don't want to be forgotten, or you don't want that sinking, terrible feeling that is described in songs and written about in poems. It is okay to fail because it's okay to be human.